45 seconds before getting into the car, Christian Waverly's life was seconds away from ending. The sound of rain echoed against the glass facade of the Waverly Global Building in downtown Manhattan. Cameras flashed, bodyguards spoke into their radios, and the black SUV waited by the curb with its engine running. It was a typical Tuesday for Christian: meetings, investors, and another endless night ahead. But destiny was already whispering through the crowd. In a language he couldn't understand, from across the street a little girl stood frozen under a flickering streetlight. Her name was Sophie Miller, and her shoes were soaked from the rain. She had followed her mother, a cleaning lady who worked in the building, and now clutched a small backpack against her chest. She shouldn't have been there. But she was, because she had heard something. Two of the guards near the SUV had just muttered words in Russian, their tone low and tense. Sophie didn't know many words in that language, only the ones her late grandmother used to whisper. But one of them, "Взорвется," explode, hit her like a spark. Her breath caught. Her heart pounded. And then she screamed, "Don't get in the car!" The moment cut through the rain like thunder. Everyone froze. Christian turned, confused. The guards moved. One of them, Victor, stepped forward, frowning. "What is this girl doing here?" he snapped, his accent heavier than usual. But Sophie kept shouting, her small hands trembling, her voice breaking through the noise. "They said it's going to explode. Please don't go." For a single second, time seemed to hold its breath. Then Christian's instinct, the same instinct that had built his empire, told him to stop. He stepped back, and in the next heartbeat the world exploded behind him. The shockwave shattered glass, sent people flying, alarms screaming. The SUV burst into flames, its doors torn apart by fire and smoke. Christian hit the ground, his ears ringing, his eyes wide open in disbelief. Somewhere through the chaos, the little girl's cry echoed again, the cry that had saved his life. Minutes later, paramedics, police, and reporters surrounded the scene. Christian sat on the sidewalk, covered in ash and rain, staring at the ruins of the vehicle that was meant to kill him. His thoughts were a blur of confusion and gratitude and fear. Who wanted him dead? And how did that little girl know? As the ambulance lights reflected on his face, he caught sight of Sophie again, standing beside her mother, crying silently. He didn't know her name yet, but he knew one thing for certain: he owed her everything. That night, as Manhattan trembled under sirens and smoke, the story of a man who had everything. And the little girl who would change it all had just begun. I'm John Parker, and today's story will touch your heart. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give your like. It's very important to me. And please tell me in the comments which city or country you're listening from. When Christian opened his eyes, the world around him was a haze of flashing lights and muffled voices. The acrid smell of smoke still clung to his clothes. He was sitting on the edge of an ambulance, a blanket draped over his shoulders, but his mind was far from the chaos. All he could see, again and again, was that tiny face in the rain, the girl who had screamed his name before everything went black. Detectives moved quickly, asking questions, jotting down notes. "Mr. Waverly," one of them said, "we believe it was a targeted attack. The bomb was placed under your car." Christian's jaw tightened. "That's impossible. No one outside my security detail touches that vehicle." The detective gave a slow nod. "That's exactly what worries us, sir." His gaze drifted toward the police line where Sophie stood with her mother, clutching a towel that was far too big for her. The girl's eyes met his, nervous, wide but steady. Christian felt something he hadn't felt in years, vulnerability mixed with gratitude. He took a deep breath and walked over. "Hey." His voice came out softer than he expected. "You saved my life." Sophie lowered her head shyly. "I didn't mean to scream, sir, but they said something bad." "In Russian." Christian froze. "You speak Russian?" She shook her head. "Just a few words. My grandma used to say them when she told stories. I heard one of the guards say Vzorov. That means boom, right?" Her innocence cut through the heaviness of the night. Christian crouched to her height. "Yes, it means boom. And because you recognized it, I'm still here." Her mother, trembling, stepped forward. "Mr. Waverly, I'm so sorry. She shouldn't have been here. Please don't get her in trouble." Christian interrupted softly. "On the contrary, she saved me. What's your name?" "Sophie," the girl whispered. "Sophie," he repeated almost to himself. That name means wisdom. It fits you. Inside, he felt a deep unease. Someone close had orchestrated this. But the question wasn't who, it was why now. Hours later, after the police cleared the area, Christian returned home to his mansion in Greenwich. The silence of the marble halls was suffocating. The housekeeper, Marianne Collins, met him at the door, her eyes wide with concern. "Good heavens, Christian, I just saw the news. Are you all right?" He nodded, his voice low. "Someone tried to kill me, Marianne." She crossed herself. "Dear Lord." As she poured him a glass of water, Christian stared at the flames dancing in the fireplace. "It had to be someone with access to my schedule, my car, my staff." He paused. "Victor was there. Did he come home?" Marianne frowned. "He left right after you. Said he had to make a call." "I haven't seen him since." Christian's chest tightened. Victor Kuznetsov, his driver for almost 6 years, ex-military, loyal to a fault. Or so he thought. The man's calm eyes and precise manner suddenly seemed less like professionalism and more like camouflage. His phone buzzed. A text from his assistant, Olivia Grant. "I'm so relieved you're safe. I can't imagine what could have happened. I'll handle the press in the morning. Please rest." He stared at the message for a long moment. Her tone was warm, maybe too warm. Olivia had always been ambitious, too eager to prove her loyalty. He replied briefly, "Thank you. We'll talk tomorrow." That night, Christian couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house made him tense, and every time he closed his eyes, he saw that little girl's face and heard her voice echoing through the storm. Maybe this wasn't just luck. Maybe fate had placed that child in his path for a reason. At dawn, Christian made a decision. He would find out who had tried to kill him, and why those men had been speaking Russian in the first place. But before anything else, he wanted to see Sophie again. Not as a hero, but as a mystery he couldn't stop thinking about. He whispered to himself, almost like a prayer, 45 seconds saved my life. Now I have to figure out what to do with the rest of it." The next morning, the sky over Greenwich was pale and cold, the kind of morning that carried silence instead of light. Christian hadn't slept at all. Coffee sat untouched beside a pile of security reports on his desk. Every word blurred together. Device, detonation, inside job. But one name stood out in his thoughts. Sophie. He called his assistant. "Olivia, cancel today's meetings. And send someone to find the girl who warned me last night. Her name is Sophie Miller. She and her mother work part-time for the cleaning company at our Manhattan office." Olivia hesitated. "Do you really want to get involved with them?" Christian's tone hardened. "I wouldn't be alive without her. So yes, I do." 2 hours later, his car, a new one, different driver, stopped outside a modest apartment complex in Yonkers. The building was old but clean, with flower pots lining the windows. Christian stepped out, feeling strangely out of place in his tailored suit among the peeling paint and kids playing soccer in the street. When Sarah Miller, Sophie's mother, opened the door, her face filled with both awe and anxiety. "Mr. Waverly, I didn't expect you. I hope I'm not intruding," Christian said gently. "I just wanted to thank your daughter properly." Sophie peeked from behind her mother's skirt, eyes wide, a teddy bear clutched to her chest. Christian knelt down. "You were brave, Sophie. Most adults would have frozen." She smiled shyly. "Grandma used to say, if your heart tells you to shout, you shout, even if nobody listens." Her words hit him harder than expected. He looked at Sarah, who nodded softly. "My mother was Ukrainian. She taught Sophie some words before she passed. We never imagined they'd save someone." Inside the apartment, Christian sat at the small kitchen table while Sarah poured coffee. There were family photos on the walls. Simple moments, humble lives. It reminded him of what he had lost. Normalcy. Love. The warmth of belonging somewhere. As they spoke, Sophie suddenly pointed at the TV. The local news replayed footage of the explosion. 2 men's faces flashed on screen, one of them unmistakably Victor Kuznetsov. The caption read, "Security guard missing after attempted assassination." Christian's pulse quickened. "That's my driver," Sarah frowned. "That's the man who was near the car. He looked scared when Sophie screamed." "He disappeared right after," Christian murmured. "And the other man?" Sarah leaned closer. "I don't know him. But look, he has the same company badge as the cleaning staff." Christian froze. That meant they'd been inside the building, inside his world. He suddenly felt cold. They weren't just after me. They were inside for weeks. Before leaving, Christian placed an envelope on the counter. "For Sophie's future," he said. Sarah tried to refuse, but he insisted. "She saved my life. Let me do at least this much." Sophie walked him to the door and looked up at him with innocent curiosity. "Are you scared, Mr. Waverly?" Christian managed a small smile. "Yes, but sometimes fear keeps us alive." The girl nodded as if she understood more than she should. "Then don't stop being scared until you find the bad men." Her words echoed in his mind long after he left. Back in his car, Christian's phone buzzed. It was a message from Olivia again. "Victor still hasn't been found. The board wants reassurance this won't affect the company. Can I come by tonight?" He stared at the message. Something about it didn't sit right. Olivia never cared about reassurance, only control. As the city skyline rolled past his window, Christian whispered, "If Victor's gone, someone else is pulling the strings." And somewhere deep inside he sensed it. This wasn't just business or betrayal. It was personal. When he looked at Sophie's drawing, which she had slipped into his coat pocket, a picture of a man, a car, and a girl shouting, "Stop!" He realized something else. The universe doesn't send angels with wings. Sometimes it sends a little girl in wet shoes. The following evening, the Waverly mansion was unusually quiet. Rain tapped against the tall windows like a nervous rhythm, and the smell of burning cedar drifted through the hall. Christian sat in his study, files spread across his desk, watching the security footage from the night of the explosion on a large screen. Each frame flickered with ghosts of the truth he was trying to find. He froze the image. There, behind him, minutes before the blast, stood Viktor Kuznetsov whispering to someone off camera. The timestamp read 8:57 p.m. 30 seconds later, Viktor opened the rear door of the SUV, placed something beneath the seat and shut it calmly. Christian's stomach turned cold. "Marianne," he called. The housekeeper appeared at the door, her hands still damp from polishing the silverware. "Yes, Mr. Waverly." "Did you ever notice anything strange about Viktor these past few weeks?" She hesitated. "He's been quiet, more than usual, taking calls in Russian sometimes outside by the garage. I thought they were family calls." "Family," Christian repeated. "Maybe not the kind we think." As he dismissed her, he noticed an envelope sitting on his desk. No stamp, no name, just his initials written in sharp black ink. Inside was a single note. "Not everyone around you works for you." He looked toward the door. Someone had been inside the mansion while he was home. That night, Olivia arrived unannounced. Dressed elegantly, she looked more like she belonged on a red carpet than in a crime scene. "Christian, I had to see you," she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound sincere. "Everyone at the office is terrified. Investors are calling. I can handle the press, but I need you to trust me." Christian studied her closely. "Trust is expensive these days." She sighed dramatically and sat down. "You think I had something to do with this? After everything I've done for you?" He leaned forward. "You've done a lot, Olivia, including hiring Victor when I was overseas. Tell me again how you found him." Her eyes flickered. "He came recommended through one of our Eastern partners. You approved the file. I approved what you placed on my desk." His tone cut through her defenses. A tense silence filled the room. Olivia shifted, forcing a smile. "You're scared. That's all. Let me stay tonight. You shouldn't be alone." Christian looked away. "No, I shouldn't, but not for the reasons you think." When she left, he immediately called Detective Ramirez, the lead investigator. "I have footage proving Victor planted something under my car," he said. "That's impossible, Mr. Waverly," Ramirez replied. "We already checked the vehicle's black box. Victor's fingerprints weren't found anywhere near the explosive." Christian frowned. "Then who was in the video?" "That's what worries me." The timestamp was altered. Someone edited the footage. He hung up slowly. Someone inside his network, maybe inside his own house, was rewriting the truth. Unable to shake the thought, Christian returned to the living room, where Marianne was watching the late-night news. The reporter's voice echoed through the space. Authorities confirmed that one of the suspects, Viktor Kuznetsov, had ties to an Eastern European syndicate involved in financial espionage. Christian turned to her. "Did you hear that?" Marianne nodded. "Yes, and there's more. The syndicate operates through shell companies. Some of them donated to your foundation. His blood ran cold. You're saying someone used my own charity to launder money? I'm saying someone inside did, she said softly. At that moment, the phone on his desk buzzed again. A text message, no number. Just another warning. The girl knows more than she should. He stood frozen. His first instinct was to protect Sophie. She was just a child. But another thought crawled in, darker and colder. If they knew she overheard Russian that night, she might be next. Christian grabbed his keys. Marianne, if anyone calls asking about me, you haven't seen me. She reached for his arm. Christian, don't go alone. I can't risk waiting. She saved me. Now I'll save her. As he drove into the storm, the wipers slashing across the windshield, he replayed Sophie's trembling voice in his mind. They said it's going to explode. Now he understood. The explosion was only the beginning. The real danger was still coming. The rain had turned to a relentless downpour, blurring the streets of Yonkers into streaks of grey and yellow. Christian's car sliced through the wet night, the tires hissing against the asphalt. He drove with one hand gripping the steering wheel and the other clenching the small note he had received. The girl knows more than she should. Every second felt heavier than the last. He didn't call the police. He didn't trust anyone anymore. Not after what he'd seen. Not after what he'd learned. When he turned onto Maple Avenue, Sophie's apartment building came into view. But something was wrong. The front door was open, swinging with the wind, and a light flickered inside. Christian slammed the brakes and ran through the rain. Sophie, he shouted. Sarah? Inside, the air smelled of fear. Overturned furniture, a broken vase, and a half-spilled cup of milk on the kitchen floor. He found Sarah Miller tied to a chair, her wrists bound with rough tape, her eyes wide with terror. Christian, they took her, she cried. They took Sophie! He rushed forward, cutting the tape with a kitchen knife. Who took her? One of them was Victor, she sobbed. And another man I didn't recognize. They said the boss wants the girl quiet. Christian's vision narrowed, rage boiling beneath his calm exterior. How long ago? 15 minutes, maybe less. They headed north toward the old industrial district. He helped her stand, trembling but determined. I'll get her back, he said. I swear it. Please, Christian, Sarah begged, grabbing his hand. They said if anyone follows them, they'll hurt her. He looked into her eyes, his voice steady. If I don't follow them, she won't have a chance. He was already dialing a number as he ran out the door. Ramirez, it's Waverly. They've taken the girl, Sophie Miller. Victor's alive and working with someone else. I'm heading to the old docks on Riverside. Waverly, don't you dare go alone. But Christian had already hung up. The Riverside industrial yard loomed ahead, abandoned warehouses stretching like the skeletons of another era. The rain drummed on the metal roofs, echoing through the emptiness. Christian turned off his headlights and stepped out, the darkness swallowing him whole. Inside one of the warehouses he heard it, a faint sound. A cry, Sophie! He followed the sound through the shadows until he saw them. Viktor Kuznetsov standing near a rusted truck, his gun drawn, and Sophie tied to a chair, her small face pale and wet with tears. Another man, tall and heavy, spoke into a phone in Russian. She's just a kid, Viktor hissed. She heard everything, the other man growled. She can identify us. Christian's chest burned with fury. Without thinking, he grabbed a metal rod and stepped into the open. Let her go, he shouted. Both men turned. Viktor froze. Christian, I trusted you. Christian's voice was thunder. You worked in my house, ate my food, and this is what you do? Viktor lowered the gun slightly, guilt flickering in his eyes. It's not what you think. I never meant to hurt her. They have my family. Back in Moscow, the larger man snarled. Enough talking. He raised his weapon. Christian lunged. The gunshot split the air, echoing like a scream. Sparks flew as the bullet hit a metal beam. Christian swung the rod, striking the man's arm. The gun fell, clattering across the floor. Sophie screamed as the man tackled Christian. The fight was brutal. Fists, blood, chaos. Viktor hesitated for a single second, then made his choice. He fired. The attacker dropped instantly, the echo fading into silence. For a moment, the only sound was the rain hitting the tin roof. Christian stared at Viktor, chest heaving. Viktor lowered the gun, trembling. You don't understand. Olivia's the one behind it. She planned everything, on the deal, the explosion, all of it. Christian's eyes widened. "Olivia!" Victor nodded weakly. "She's been working with the syndicate for months. The explosion was supposed to frame me. I didn't want the girl to die, Christian. I tried to warn you, but a sudden sound and a car engine outside. Headlights flashed through the cracks in the wall." Victor turned toward the door, gun raised, but before he could react, a shot rang out. He fell to the ground, lifeless. Christian shielded Sophie and pulled her close as the lights moved away. Whoever fired that shot was already gone. Holding Sophie in his arms, he whispered, "You're safe now, sweetheart. I promise." But deep down he knew it wasn't over. The storm outside had finally stopped, but inside Christian's heart, a darker one had just begun. Olivia Grant, the woman he trusted, the woman who stood beside him through every deal and every lie, had just declared war. By the time Christian carried Sophie back into the mansion, dawn was breaking over the Connecticut hills. The rain had stopped, leaving a low mist curling through the gardens. The silence of the estate felt heavy, like the calm before another storm. Sophie clung to him, exhausted but safe. Her small hand held tightly to his shirt. Marianne rushed down the marble stairs as soon as the front door opened. "Good heavens, Christian, what happened?" "Is she hurt?" "She's fine," he said, his voice hoarse. "But Victor's dead. And I know who's behind this now." He gently placed Sophie on the couch, covering her with a blanket. "Marianne, call Dr. Hale. She needs to be checked." As Marianne hurried away, Christian stared into the fireplace, his mind spinning with Olivia's name. Olivia Grant, the woman who'd stood beside him for years, managing his calendar, his foundation, his trust. The woman who had smiled when she said, "You can count on me." He walked to his office, shut the door, and opened the safe behind the painting. Inside were hard drives, ledgers, contracts, everything Olivia had handled for him. He inserted one of the drives into his computer. Within seconds, a hidden folder appeared labeled Eurasia Holdings. His pulse quickened. That was one of the shell companies Marianne had mentioned. Click, password required. He tried the obvious. Olivia G. Grant 2023, Waverly, nothing. Then he remembered something, the pendant Olivia always wore. A small silver charm shaped like an hourglass. Her motto had always been, "Everything in time." He typed "In Time 2022. The files opened. There it was, a trail of wire transfers, signed in his name, sending millions to accounts linked to Eastern Europe, and attached to one transaction, an encrypted message, "Delivery confirmed. Waverly termination scheduled." He sat back in disbelief. His company, his name, his fortune, all used as a weapon against him. "Christian?" Marianne's voice came softly from the doorway. She was holding a tray of tea, her eyes searching his face. "You found something." He nodded slowly. "I found everything." Olivia framed Victor to hide her tracks, and she used my foundation to move money for the syndicate. Marianne placed the tray down. "Then you must go to the police." "I can't yet," he said. "If I go now, she'll vanish. And she'll take everything with her." Marianne hesitated, her expression troubled. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you long ago." Christian turned sharply. "What is it?" She looked toward Sophie, who was now asleep on the couch, her small face peaceful beneath the blanket. "That girl," Marianne whispered. "She's not just some stranger." Her grandmother. "Was Anna Petrova?" Christian's eyes widened. "Your old friend from Ukraine?" Marianne nodded. "Anna worked here years ago, before you took over the estate. She was my closest friend, and she helped me raise you when your parents died. When she left for New York, she was pregnant." He blinked, confusion mixing with realization. "You mean—" "She gave birth to a daughter. Sarah, Sophie's mother." Marianne's voice trembled. "That makes Sophie your goddaughter, Christian. Her grandmother asked me to watch over her family if anything ever happened." The room fell silent. Christian turned to look at Sophie again. The girl who had saved him wasn't just a miracle of fate. She was part of his past. He ran a hand through his hair, his thoughts a whirlwind. "So all this time, she was connected to my family." Marianne nodded. Perhaps that's why she was there that night. Sometimes blood calls to blood. Before Christian could respond, the house alarm suddenly beeped. Unauthorized entry. He rushed to the security monitor. A black SUV had stopped outside the gates. The same model as the one that exploded days earlier. Marianne gasped. "Is it Olivia?" Christian's jaw clenched. It has to be. He turned off the lights, his voice low but firm. Marianne, take Sophie to the wine cellar. Lock the door and don't come out until I say so. She hesitated. Christian, go, now. As he loaded his father's old revolver from the drawer, he whispered under his breath, You picked the wrong house, Olivia. Outside, the mansion lights flickered in the fog as footsteps echoed on the gravel driveway. Somewhere in the distance, a woman's voice called softly, almost tenderly. Christian, it's me. Don't do anything stupid. He aimed toward the door, his heartbeat steady, his mind sharper than ever. This wasn't business anymore. It was betrayal coming home. The front doors of the Waverly mansion creaked open, letting in the cold mist from outside. Olivia Grant stepped in like she owned the night, her heels clicking on the marble, her trench coat soaked from the rain. Her face was pale, but her smile was deliberate, the kind that had once fooled everyone in the room. Christian, she said softly, her voice almost affectionate. You look exhausted. I told you to rest. Christian stood near the fireplace, the revolver hidden behind his leg. The firelight flickered across his face, revealing calm, but only on the surface. You shouldn't be here, Olivia. I had to come, she replied. We can fix this. You and I, everything got messy. But it's not too late. He took a step forward, eyes locked on her. Messy? You tried to kill me. Her jaw tightened, but her smile didn't fade. I didn't try to kill you, Christian. They did. I was trying to protect you. He let out a cold laugh. Protect me? You used my company to launder money for a syndicate. You framed Victor. You nearly killed a child. What part of that sounds like protection? Olivia's expression cracked for the first time. You don't understand. They would have destroyed me. Destroyed us. I made a deal to buy us time. There is no us, he said sharply. There never was. She flinched at that, her composure slipping. You think you know everything because of what you found on that hard drive? That was only part of it. I did what I had to do. You don't know what kind of people you're dealing with. Christian's tone was ice. You mean the kind of people you invited into my life. The tension thickened until the only sound was the crackling of the fire. Then Olivia's eyes darted toward the hallway. Where's the girl? She asked quietly. Christian raised the gun slightly. Far from you. Her lips curled. Then she's smart. You always liked brave ones, didn't you? He aimed now, his hand steady. You're leaving. Right now. Olivia took a step closer instead. You won't shoot me. You've never had the courage to hurt anyone, not even when your wife betrayed you. The mention of his late wife hit like a knife. Don't you dare talk about her. Oh, Christian, she whispered, circling closer. You think she was innocent? She was the one who opened the first account with Eurasia Holdings, the one who started all this. I just finished what she began. For a moment he froze. His voice dropped to a whisper. You're lying. Am I? Olivia's eyes gleamed with triumph. Ask your precious Marianne. She was the one who brought your wife's documents to me after the funeral. The room spun. Christian's grip on the gun faltered for the first time. No, Marianne wouldn't. But then a sound from the staircase broke through the tension, the creak of a floorboard. Olivia turned sharply. Well, speak of the devil. Marianne stood halfway down the stairs holding a small box. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. She's telling the truth. Partially. Christian's eyes widened. Marianne, what is she talking about? Marianne stepped forward. Your wife was blackmailed, Christian. Years ago. She signed papers for a fake investment account, without realizing it was tied to Eurasia Holdings. When she found out, she tried to fix it, but she was too late. The car accident. Her voice trembled. It wasn't an accident. Olivia smiled coldly. There it is. The truth you never wanted to hear. Christian's knees nearly buckled. You mean she was murdered? Marianne nodded. By the same people who came for you. Christian turned the gun fully toward Olivia. Then you were part of that too. Olivia's smirk faded. I didn't kill her. But I had to survive after she died. They would have killed me too if I hadn't cooperated. He stepped closer, anger and grief colliding in his chest. You could have stopped it. I couldn't stop anything. Olivia shouted, her voice breaking for the first time. You think power makes you untouchable, but it doesn't. It just makes you a target. The sound of a door creaking upstairs broke the silence. Sophie's faint voice carried down the hall. Mr. Waverly. Olivia's head snapped toward the sound. The girl. Christian fired, a single warning shot that shattered a vase beside her. "Don't move," but Olivia didn't flinch. She smiled again, a shadow of madness in her eyes. "You're too late. They're already on their way." Christian grabbed her by the wrist, forcing her toward the door. "Who's coming?" She leaned in, whispering near his ear. "The ones who never miss twice." Suddenly tires screeched outside. Headlights flooded through the windows. Shadows moved beyond the fog, multiple figures armed and advancing. Christian looked at Marianne. "Take Sophie. Get her out through the back tunnels. What about you?" He looked at Olivia, his eyes burning. "I'll keep her busy." As Marianne rushed upstairs, Christian cocked the revolver again and whispered under his breath, 45 seconds saved my life once. Let's see how many more I've got left." The mansion lights went dark. The air grew heavy with silence, broken only by the low hum of engines outside. Christian moved quickly, dragging Olivia into the study and locking the door behind them. Through the security monitors, he could see dark shapes moving across the courtyard, 6, maybe 7 men armed and disciplined. Olivia's voice trembled, though she tried to hide it. "They're here for both of us." "No," Christian said, checking the revolver. "They're here for me." He turned off the last light and opened the desk drawer, revealing a second weapon, an old semi-automatic pistol, kept since his father's military days. He tossed it to her. "You wanted to survive? Then help me." She caught it but didn't raise it. "I'm not your enemy, Christian." "Then stop acting like one." A sharp crack of glass echoed from the west wing. Someone had broken in, Christian whispered into the small radio clipped to his belt. "Marianne, status?" Her voice came back in a frantic whisper. "I've got Sophie. We're in the old cellar passage under the kitchen. I'm sealing the hatch. Stay there. Don't come out until I say so." He switched off the radio and turned to Olivia. "If you want to make things right, we hold them off until help arrives." Her eyes flickered. "Help isn't coming." Before he could ask, a burst of gunfire tore through the living room windows. Christian pulled her to the ground as bullets shredded the furniture. "They're inside!" Smoke filled the hallway as flashbangs exploded, lighting up the mansion with eerie white light. Shadows rushed in. Christian fired twice, hitting one intruder in the shoulder. The others ducked behind the pillars. "Go!" he yelled. "Upstairs now!" They sprinted up the grand staircase. Olivia clutched the pistol but hadn't fired a single shot. "We can't win this," she cried. "I'm not trying to win," he said. "I'm trying to buy time." In the upstairs hallway, Christian kicked open the door to his father's old office. Solid oak, reinforced. He barricaded it with furniture. The men downstairs spread out, their voices echoing in Russian. Olivia crouched by the window, trembling. "They said you were supposed to die in the explosion. When you didn't, they turned on me. They think I betrayed them." Christian glanced at her. "Did you?" She met his eyes. "I don't even know anymore." The pounding of boots came closer. Christian moved to the side of the door, gripping the revolver. When the first man burst in, he fired point blank. The intruder fell instantly, but 2 more followed. Olivia screamed as bullets ripped through the desk, splintering wood. Christian rolled behind a cabinet, reloading. "Stay down," he barked. He fired again, grazing another attacker's arm. The remaining men retreated momentarily, regrouping. Olivia's breathing was ragged. "We can't hold them forever." Christian's gaze drifted to the wall safe. He remembered something hidden inside. A satellite phone coded directly to Detective Ramirez. He crawled over, yanked it open, and dialed. "Ramirez, multiple armed intruders at Waverly Estate." "They're syndicate. I need backup now." "On our way," Ramirez's voice answered. 10 minutes out." "Hold them off." 10 minutes, Christian whispered. "We just need 10 minutes." Downstairs, another explosion shook the mansion, the front door blown open. Smoke poured in, alarms blaring. The entire ground floor was engulfed in chaos. Christian turned to Olivia. "There's a service elevator behind the kitchen. Leads straight to the cellar tunnels. Go." She looked at him, hesitation in her eyes. "What about you?" "I'll hold them here." Her lips trembled. "Christian, I never wanted this." He cut her off coldly. "Then prove it. Save that girl." Without another word, she ran. Moments later, 2 more men stormed the hallway. Christian ducked behind the wall, returning fire. 1 bullet grazed his arm, but he kept moving. The pain only sharpened his focus. Through the haze, he saw one of the intruders raise a grenade launcher. His pulse quickened. He aimed, fired, and hit the man's hand just as the grenade slipped loose. The explosion ripped through the corridor, hurling Christian backward. When the smoke cleared, only silence remained, broken furniture, flames licking the drapes. He coughed, pushing himself up, blood running down his temple. "Still standing," he muttered. A faint voice crackled through the radio. Sophie's. "Mr. Waverly? Are you okay?" He smiled through the pain. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Stay with Marianne." "But she said Miss Olivia came down here too." Christian froze. "What?" Before he could respond, a gun clicked behind him. Olivia's voice, calm, distant, whispered, "You really are impossible to kill." He turned slowly. She stood in the doorway, pistol raised, eyes cold as glass. "You told me to save the girl," she said softly, "but you never asked what I'd do after." Christian's body tensed as he faced Olivia, the dim glow of the burning curtains painting her silhouette in flickering gold. The air smelled of smoke and betrayal. She stood a few feet away, pistol leveled at his chest, her hand steady but her eyes glassy with conflict. "You don't have to do this," Christian said, his voice calm but low. Olivia's lips trembled, though she forced a smile. "You always say that you don't have to. You said it to your wife. You said it to Victor. But you never understood something, Christian. Everyone has to do something to survive." She stepped closer, the sound of her heels echoing against the ruined marble floor. "You think you're the hero here? You built your empire on money from people like them. You just didn't want to see it." Christian shook his head. "I didn't know. But you enjoyed it," she hissed. "The power. The recognition. All of it was funded by dirty money long before I showed up." For a brief moment she lowered the gun, her shoulders shaking. "Do you know what it's like to grow up invisible, Christian? To work for men like you and realize that no matter how smart you are, you'll never be more than a tool. I gave you everything, trust, respect, opportunity," he said quietly. "You gave me scraps," she snapped, lifting the gun again. "And when the syndicate came, I took their offer. I became more powerful than you could ever imagine." Christian's jaw clenched. "And what did that power cost you?" Olivia blinked, tears mixing with the smoke. "Everything. And that's why I can't walk away now." A faint sound broke the tension, the creak of the floorboards behind her. Before she could react, a voice echoed through the corridor. "Put it down, Olivia." It was Detective Ramirez, his gun aimed steady from the doorway, a flashlight cutting through the haze. Behind him, 2 SWAT officers moved silently into position. Olivia's expression flickered between fear and fury. "You're too late," she whispered. "You think you can stop them? They'll kill all of us." Ramirez stepped forward. "Maybe. But you're not pulling that trigger tonight." Christian took a careful step to the side, edging closer to the fallen debris. "Olivia," he said softly, "look at me." Her eyes met his, and for a heartbeat something human flashed in them. Regret, exhaustion, loss. "You should have died that night, Christian. It would have been easier for both of us." "Maybe," he said, "but then I never would have met her." Her brow furrowed. "Who?" "Sophie," he whispered. "The girl who saved me." Something in her expression faltered, her resolve trembling. "A child doesn't change fate." "No," he said, taking another slow step forward. "But she reminded me that even when the world is corrupted, innocence still exists, and it's worth fighting for." Olivia's hand wavered. For a second, Christian thought she might drop the weapon, until a single gunshot exploded in the air. Her eyes widened. She staggered backward, clutching her shoulder. The pistol clattered to the floor. Christian turned. Ramirez had fired. "She's down." SWAT officers rushed in, disarming her as she sank to her knees, sobbing. "You don't understand," she gasped. "You can't stop them." "This is bigger than him, bigger than me." Ramirez pulled her up roughly. "You can explain it downtown." As they led her away, Olivia turned her head toward Christian one last time. "They won't forgive this. You've just painted a target on yourself and on that little girl." Christian didn't answer. He simply watched as they took her out into the dawn light, her shadow vanishing behind the red and blue flashes of police lights. When the noise settled, Ramirez turned to him. "You all right?" Christian nodded slowly. "I've been better." "You're lucky you called when you did," the detective said, holstering his weapon. "If we'd been 5 minutes later, she'd have put a bullet in you." Christian gave a faint, humorless smile. She always did have good timing. Ramirez glanced around the destroyed mansion. We'll secure the property. There's a child downstairs, right? Yes, Christian said quietly. She's the reason I'm still alive. He walked down the grand staircase, every step heavy but steady. The fire had nearly died, leaving only the scent of ash and rain. In the cellar he found Sophie and Marianne, their faces pale but unhurt. Sophie ran to him, hugging his waist. "Is it over?" she asked softly. Christian looked down at her, this tiny soul who had stood against the darkness without even knowing it. "Almost," he said. "But I think it's just beginning." Outside, dawn broke fully over the estate, painting the wet lawns gold. For the first time in years, Christian felt something like peace, fragile, uncertain, but real. He knelt and brushed a strand of hair from Sophie's forehead. "You were very brave, Sophie Miller." She smiled sleepily. "Grandma used to say bravery runs in the family." Christian froze. "What did you just say?" Sophie blinked innocently. "Mom said Grandma used to work for a rich family a long time ago. Maybe she meant you." Marianne's eyes met his, and the truth now fully exposed. Blood ties, fate, and redemption had all converged in a way neither of them could have predicted. Christian pulled Sophie closer, whispering, "Then maybe your grandmother was right about one more thing." "What thing?" Sophie asked. "That miracles don't happen by accident." Morning sunlight spilled through the shattered windows of the Waverly mansion. The storm had finally passed, leaving behind a silence so deep it felt sacred. Smoke still lingered in the air, not just from the fire, but from everything that had burned down in Christian's life over the last few days. Lies, trust, and the illusion of safety. Detectives and officers moved through the property, cataloguing evidence, whispering to one another. Olivia was gone, taken into custody, but her last words echoed in Christian's mind like an unfinished song. "They won't forgive this. You've just painted a target on yourself, and on that little girl." Christian stood on the front steps, bandaged arm resting against the railing, as the sunrise painted the world gold. Behind him, Sophie played quietly with Marianne in the garden, her laughter faint yet healing. Detective Ramirez approached, a file in his hand. "We found encrypted drives in Olivia's car. Names, accounts, government officials." "You were right, it's global." Christian took the file but didn't open it. "Will they come after her?" Ramirez nodded grimly. "If the syndicate is half as powerful as she claims, she won't make it to trial." Christian looked back towards Sophie. "Then she's not wrong. They'll come for me, too." Ramirez studied him for a moment. "What are you going to do?" Christian smiled faintly. "What I should have done years ago. Stop hiding behind numbers and start fighting for something real." He turned toward the gardens, watching Sophie chase a butterfly between the roses. "You ever wonder why that girl was there that night, Ramirez?" The detective shrugged. "Coincidence, maybe." Christian shook his head. "No, I don't believe in coincidences anymore." Later that day, he sat with Sophie and Marianne at the dining table, a table once reserved for politicians and investors, now holding bowls of soup and soft laughter. Sophie's mother, Sarah, arrived not long after, tears in her eyes as she embraced her daughter. "Thank you," she said to Christian. "You risked everything for her." Christian smiled. "She did the same for me." Sophie looked up at him, eyes bright. "Are the bad people gone now?" He hesitated, then knelt beside her. "Some are, but there are always others. That's why we have to stay brave." Sophie nodded thoughtfully. "Grandma used to say when the night is darkest, that's when God hides the brightest star." Christian's throat tightened. She was right. "And I think I just found mine." For the first time in years he laughed, a soft, genuine laugh that surprised even him. Marianne looked at him with quiet pride. "Your wife would have been proud, Christian." He met her eyes. "I think she would have wanted me to forgive myself." The hours passed slowly, peacefully. By evening, the mansion stood still again. Christian walked through the ruins of his study, stopping at the broken window where the world beyond looked somehow different, less threatening, more alive. He placed a hand on the frame and whispered to himself, 45 seconds. That's all it took to change everything. A small voice behind him said, "Maybe God gave you those 45 seconds to start over." He turned. Sophie stood there holding a crumpled piece of paper. It was her drawing, now torn and smudged. A man, a car, and a little girl shouting, "Stop!" Christian knelt and took it gently. "Can I keep this?" She smiled. "It's yours." You earned it. Outside, the wind carried the smell of rain and new beginnings. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang. As the camera of memory fades out, John Parker's voice breaks the silence. Life rarely warns us when everything is about to change. Sometimes it's a whisper, a stranger's glance, or a child's cry in the rain. 45 seconds before stepping into a car, Christian Waverly was a man lost in wealth and loneliness. 45 seconds later, he was a man reborn, through innocence, courage, and grace. So if you ever think your moment has passed, remember this: miracles don't always come from heaven. Sometimes they come from the least expected voice, one that reminds you to stop before you lose everything. I'm John Parker, and if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, and believe that your own 45 seconds can change everything.